Today, today is April 11th, 2015, and my last video clip just cut out because I had to make more room on my computer. But what I was saying is that this other man who I had kissed when I was a preteen and being asked to kiss these various men one time who were connected to the United States government. Anyway, I kissed him, and it was not like in hiding or anything. It was out in the restaurant part of the Latin American place, and at the table where, you know, in full view of anyone. So there was nothing secretive about it, and there was like a dance floor off to the side, and then there were some tables and chairs and everything, and that's how that was. And I noticed that there were a couple of men who were priests or were wearing collars who sat at one of the tables, and I wasn't quite sure, you know, if they were just dressing up, you know, if they really were priests, or if they were maybe or if they were, you know, government operatives dressed up to look like priests. You know, I wasn't sure about that, but they were watching in on some things. And the thing about this man that I kissed, his name is Omar, and I was being told that he was Alvaro Pardo's cousin. And Omar, I had met when I was younger, as I already explained, and he was connected to Carol Middleton. I mean, Omar and Carol Middleton were friends. The other strange thing about it is that I remember my mother, or one of the Dixies, had kissed him. So some of the things that the United States government did was, with at least one of the Dixies, it looked to me like they were trying to have some of the government men sexually assault or use both my mom and then me, and possibly just to degrade my mom or one of the Dixies, and then of course to degrade me. And what motive the United States government would have for doing that, I'm not quite sure, because I kind of think that at different times, possibly at least one of the Dixies was being suspected of espionage, because the Dixies and the Bobs, you know, they are twins and triplets. They're psychics. They're gifted, and the government has used them ever since they were kids. And from what I noticed when I was a kid, they were occasionally in full view of my side. They were being handcuffed, dragged away, issued threats, interrogated, had guns held to their heads, beat up, raped, a whole number of things. So, you know, I always thought half the time it looked like at least one of them was completely complicit in working with the government, and then half the time it looked like they were being tortured and forced and coerced to sign papers the same way that I was, and to do certain things. And so anyway, this person, Omar, was the one that I ended up kissing that night, not anyone else. And then Henry told me that I should go with, he said, if you need a place to stay tonight, you can go with Alvaro. And then he added saying to that, saying he's rich, he has a lot of money. Well, I think possibly Henry or someone thought that saying he's rich and he has a lot of money would be an enticement for me to want to go somewhere with him or to do something with him, and it wasn't. I really didn't care how much money he had, because I wasn't interested in hooking up with someone, regardless of how much what their income was or how much they had. I was looking for work and a safe place to stay until I found work, and tried to save up a little bit more, and then put myself in a better position for getting my son back. And trying to report some of the things that the United States government was doing. So even though he added, that Alvaro had a lot of money and go with him and that kind of thing, I just heard the part about that he had a room in a house that he rented, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I could stay there and look for work in that area, because the other area didn't look very promising, and I had tried to get work there in the other area. And I didn't have, more days left in that hotel, and it was out there, not really on a bus line or subway with, a lot of frequency. And it did not look like there was as much turnover in the restaurants. Like it might be quite a wait until I even got work over there, if I even managed to somehow get by. And I did at that point even look for a homeless shelter in the area, because I thought, well, maybe I could stay at a shelter while I'm waiting for work over there. So anyway, I wasn't going out, looking around for dates. That's not how I worked. And however, what the government wanted is the government just wanted to see how many times they could rape me and get away with it. And they were using a lot of the same men, basically, to do that. And so when I then talked to Alvaro, I said, well, I guess I might go with you to this place over there, but your friend says that you have a house with a lot of rooms. And he said, yes. He said, my housemate and he said, she's not going to be there, but he said, we share a large apartment. It's a townhouse, and one of the guys moved out, and there's an entire bedroom that is that you could have all to yourself. So they were sitting there. So he was sitting there telling me that there was a bedroom that I would be able to use, and I could go in and close the door to, and didn't have to even be in the same room with Alvaro. So I thought, okay, well, that sounds all right. So I went with them, and so with that in mind, I had more drinks, because I assumed, okay, I have a place to go. It's my own room, and I don't have to worry about anything. So I then was driven to this townhouse, and there was a room, and then Alvaro said, oh, it's locked. He said, and I don't have the key. He said, well, oh, too bad. So then I said, okay, well, I'll sleep in the living room. And he said, no, you can't, because my housemate will get home and she won't like it. And I said, well, there's a couch right out there. And he said, no, you can't. He said, so the only place you can sleep is in my room. And so then he opens the door to his room, and I said, well, I'll sleep on the floor. And he opens the door, and this room was teeny tiny, and the king-size bed took up the entire room. There was literally a huge bed, and then a dresser stacked against the wall, which didn't even allow you to move around at all. And I'm really not kidding. It was like you barely had room. Two people couldn't stand one in front of the other when you're first walking in, because there was no room. I mean, you had to squeeze around to even stand in there without sitting on the bed or being around the bed or something like that. So I thought, okay, well, it's a very large bed, and I had shared a bed in the past with people, and nothing happened, and I did want to get out of there, And I didn't have money to do that. I didn't know where the bus line was, and I had had a lot to drink. I wasn't sure where I would go at that time of night, even if there was a place that was open 24 hours, which I thought about. I thought, can I get to a 24-hour place from here? And I even asked, I said, is there a bus line around here? Because I didn't want to stay. And I felt that I had been lied to about where he was taking me and what the conditions were. And so I did ask to find out if I had any alternatives to that situation, and I didn't. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stay on my side of the bed. And then over the course of a few days, he didn't try anything. And then and I went out with him a couple of times to different clubs and to go drinking with friends, and the whole time I was keeping my ears open about work and trying to figure out how do I get a job and get out of this situation. So then one of the times that I went out with him, I was still under the influence, and he started to come on to me, and I was like I was asleep at the time, so I was caught off guard, and so I started kissing him a little bit and that kind of thing, and then he acted like he was going to try to have sex with me, and I said no. And I said no forcefully. I said it loudly, and I tried pushing him off. And then right at that moment, when I repeatedly said no and was trying to push Alvaro Pardo away from me, you know, Alvaro Pardo, the United States government's noble knight in shining armor. I mean, I'm not quite sure what they wanted to make out of it, but I do know that the United States government is criminal, and that they used him to rape me. And he was part of the situation that I've already described many videos back, where it was the telephone rings, the telephone ring rape, where they had programmed me and tortured me repeatedly to be in a situation where a man was in bed with me, and he was going to rape me, and I would say no, or if I tried to say no or decline or push him away, then the telephone would ring, and then they'd ask me, do you want to talk to a cop, or is everything okay? They'd say, is everything okay? Which was something that cops say a lot. Is everything okay? You know, is everything all right? That kind of thing. And if I dared resist or say anything over the phone, I was getting clubbed in the head with bats, with fists. I was getting electrocuted, and I was having guns held to my head. And I believed, and this is something that the government practiced not just a couple of times, but that they rehearsed over and over and over. And actually, when I say rehearsed, it's not like they pretended to do these things. They actually did these things to me when I was much younger. And then here, a couple of decades later, they wanted to try out the entire routine and see if it still worked. You know, if they could still rape me, and if I would still be so terrified, and that I would repress fighting back, and then go through the whole routine of pretending like nothing bad happened just to survive. So they did that to me, and Henry called, and they used Henry to be the person who called up, and then he said, is everything all right? He started talking to Alvaro. And when I think he talked to Alvaro for a few minutes, and then he wanted to talk to me, and he asked me that question. And then after that, I was basically, Alvaro then tried to do what he was trying to do again, and I didn't even resist, and I was basically scared and intimidated into not resisting, just as they had done to me when I was a kid. So Alvaro Pardo raped me, and he did it knowing what the government routine was, because he was part of the organization back when I was a kid when they were doing those things to me and practicing that.